Now here we have the evolution of cells, but in this case with the critical antibiotics. So we have some data for the evolution of the critical antibiotics use, and we can say that in general from the last 10 years the decrease of the total cells of antibiotics was 46.5, but in the case of the critical antibiotics, like third, fourth generation cephalosporin was 37%, the 34% of cells of quinolones, but from this 34% of decrease, 83% are other quinolones, that is the flumequine. In the fluoroquinolones, marvofloxacin or enrofloxacin, the decrease was only 14%. And it's basically because flumequine was not working or was not used too much, more than for the restrictions. And of course, for the colistin is the biggest decrease, that decreased almost 80% during the last 10 years. If we go to the last 4 years, we go to the last 4 years because since 2017, the restrictions are bigger. So we can, from 17, we can see a bigger decrease of the cells because of this. So in the last 4 years, we decreased the 20% of the total use of antibiotics. And in this case, the 20% for the cephalosporin third and fourth generation decreased 20%, 80.5% for the cells of all quinolones, and also in this case, the flumequine was disappearing, but in the case of fluoroquinolones like enrofloxacin or marvofloxacin, it increased a little bit, just 1 point, almost 1 point, the use of these fluoroquinolones. And in the colistin also continue with the decreasing. And here is the graphic with the evolution of these critical antibiotics. You can see that first there was a decrease. It's very clear that from 2011 to 2021 there's a decrease of the use of quinolones, cephalosporins, polymyxins, almost half, from 161 to 86, but the ones that decrease more is the colistin. So you can see in the graphic that the colistin is decreasing a lot, and the rest more or less are equal, except the other quinolones, the flumequine, that was used very few, only 1.1, but in 2021 is 0.2. Okay. Of course, in 2016-17 the decrease was very fast, and is because there was banned the use in feed. So there was banned to put colistin in feed. For this reason, decrease very fast, because when you put an antibiotic in feed, you are using big quantities than in the oral. Okay, then now it's time for the conclusions. So we saw in the presentation that the use of antibiotics decreased considerably from 2011 to 2021, was almost 50%. And these results indicate that the efforts for the national authorities and EU authorities to reduce the use of antimicrobials was successful, and these programs was like, for example, the national campaigns for the responsible use of antibiotics, the restrictions, that is one of the most important points, the restriction of use of certain antibiotics, the prescription control measures, and of course the awareness raising campaigns and EU guidance. The decline of antibiotics sales after all these controls and restrictions, the decline of antibiotic sales appears to have slowed the last year, because of course the previous reduction was very high, so now it's more difficult to continue with these big decreases. So the descending trend must be maintained and reinforced. And finally, in this year 2023, the EMA, the European authorities, will publish the new statistic for the consume of antibiotics in 2022. That will be available in November, December 23, and sure will be very interesting, because in 2022 starts also new and big restrictions, so will be very interesting to see the final results, because I am sure that the decrease will be very important. The decrease of the use of some antibiotics will be very important. And well, thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy this presentation.